Let's take some time and let's talk about the connection that exists between leadership and vision. It's really, really difficult to lead anything if there isn't any type of vision involved. And so when it comes to leading in ministry, when it comes to leading church, vision is imperative. And so let's take a little bit of time and just talk about what makes vision motivational, what seems to help it sink in and move people in a way that goes, I want to help accomplish that mission. I love what the author Simon Sinek actually says about vision. And I think this is a great way to kind of define it. He says that vision is the ability to talk about the future with such clarity, it is as if we were actually talking about the past. That's a powerful statement about vision. And I can tell you, when I read that definition or that idea of what vision is, I go, boy, I've fallen short many times in the way that I've gone about actually casting vision. Simon Sinek actually has a fantastic book, talks about the power of why. He also has a TED Talk that goes along with that. It's about a 17-minute TED Talk. It's one of the most popular ones I've ever been given. I would highly encourage you to take some time and actually watch that. And he really breaks down, he kind of, in essence, codifies what makes vision inspirational and why there's certain leaders in history that have been seem to be more motivational, more inspirational than other leaders. And he kind of defines in a way that's very understandable on both ends that people may have great intentions and they work really hard to come up with a vision that will be compelling, that will pull people together and get people moving together. But for some reason, it falls flat. And then he talks about what is the difference between vision that actually makes things happen, actually inspires people to action. Definitely worth your time to take some time and go through that TED Talk. But there are 4 steps that are critical in understanding when it comes just to the basic pieces of casting vision. This is the art side of vision casting. I can give you some tips and science points to think through about. You just got to do X, Y, Z. I wish it was just that easy. But here's some basic things of how you want to think about breaking down vision casting. First of all, the vision has to be clear. Clear is always better than clever. People need to understand what is actually expected of them. And if the vision isn't clear, then they're going to have a difficulty understanding my role or where are we actually going? Is this something I actually want to be a part of? And so I would say, as a communicator, you have to spend a lot of time. I find that in my messages, any type of communication, a sermon, or even just this moment that I'm trying to create from the stage to cast a vision, get people moving to some type of action. It takes me more time to actually make sure that it lands in a place that people, where it's clear in their minds and they truly understand what is actually expected of them or what their role is involved with this. And so focus in on the clarity aspect of casting vision. A good way to think about it is think about even a vision statement in the life of a church. I've worked with a lot of pastors over the years that I would say their vision statement is anything but clear. It may be theologically correct, which is important, but the reality is I have to read it 4 or 5 times to even begin to make sense of what are they actually trying to get to. There's a problem anytime that you ask somebody, hey, why don't you tell me your vision statement? They actually have to pull up their website because it's so long. A good vision statement, like in the life of the church, is about 12 words. It's really that small, that short, that clear, and that will force you to think about clarity. The second thing is vision needs to be concrete. In other words, it has to have a tangible aspect to the way that it operates. People need to be able to literally wrap their hands around it and understand, okay, in order for me to be a part of this vision, this is what it's going to require me. This is where I have to be willing to get my hands dirty. The third is the vision has to be concise. Again, kind of coming back to that 12-word idea, it has to be concise enough that it's memorable. So it needs to be clear, it needs to be concrete, it needs to be tangible, something you can put your hands on, and then concise. And the last one needs to be compelling. People need to be inspired to move. They need to be inspired to action. In other words, part of leadership is teaching and training people to go, it's going from point A all the way over to point B. And in order to move people from point A to point B, you have to help them understand we can no longer stay here. Maybe it's there's something bad for us, it's dangerous, whatever, but we can't stay at A. And so we got to give them a compelling reason to leave A behind and embrace the change, embrace loss. Sometimes that requires pain in order to get to point B. But those are 4 critical steps anytime that are important to understand when it comes to casting vision. Now let's break down a little bit what makes vision motivational and where does it tend to sometimes even fall flat. There are 2 levels of vision that when it comes to motivation. You have top level, or what I would kind of classify as long-term motivators. And then you have lower level or short-term motivators. Let me explain a little bit of the difference. Top level long-term motivators are going to engage people and they're going to commit to something, some type of action for an extended amount of time. The reason why people will do that, one of the most powerful aspects of helping motivate people with vision is love, grace, relationship, and identity are strewn together in the way that vision is communicated. That this is just who we are. This is what it means to be us. This is what it means to be a part of this church. And we're all committed to each other, and we're going to work through this. I think about even in my own family, there are times I talk with my kids and say, hey, you're a Stevenson, and this is what it means to be a Stevenson. That's the love, grace, relationship, identity concept when it comes to how we cast vision. The other thing is people will be motivated with an endearment, a long-term motivation when they see opportunity there, where it may be, hey, we have this opportunity, and if we don't seize it, it's going to be gone and it'll never come back. And so it may be this piece of property is going to come up for sale, and we've got 2 years to come up with the means in order to secure that property. And this is a primo spot. People will dedicate themselves, will be motivated when they have that. They see that this is a once in a lifetime type of opportunity. And then lastly is personal development. People want to know what's in it for them. And so when they know that there's something powerful in it for them, they tend to commit to it. Like, I'm going to grow, I'm going to become better, I'm going to be a better husband or a better wife or whatever it may be. But when they see that personal development is a part of the long-term vision, they'll commit to that at a long-term level. Now, the short term tend to be this: need, duty, responsibility, guilt, and shame. Let me break this down. Need is a short-term motivator because most of the time it's cast, let's say it this way. We need more children's workers in our church. I hear that all the time from the stage, whether or not it's kind of the host role or even the pastor saying, hey, would you be willing to volunteer? We need more volunteers in our children's ministry. If you haven't hit that spot, you probably will. So it's just fair warning. The challenge and why this is a short-term motivator is sometimes the need never actually goes away. Which, if the need is never actually going away, that means that there's something wrong in the structure and the systems to fill that need. And so people wear out with constantly hearing need, and they go, well, I did mine last time. I filled that in last month. And so it's time for somebody else to step into that. And so we want to be careful of articulating vision just based on need. The second is duty and responsibility. I think this has shifted actually over more recent generations. I think in previous generations, the duty responsibility actually probably was a long-term motivator. But in our world today, it's no longer there. People don't do things just because that's what it means to be a good American, or that's what it means to be just a part of the church. The idea of duty or responsibility kind of fall on the wayside, and it's more, I'm going to define for myself what is important when it comes to duty and responsibility, and I don't want anybody else telling me what that is. The third and last one, and I'm pretty sure most of us, if not all of us, have felt this in one way or another over the years, and it's the use of guilt, shame, and fear. Guilt, shame, and fear. Leader, let me plead with you as you go about casting vision. Do everything you possibly can to avoid using guilt, shame, and fear to motivate your people to do something. It is abusive, and in the long term, it will damage people when it comes to their view of leadership, their view of the pastorate, their view of church. And so be very, very careful how you go to that bucket. And I would encourage you, just avoid using guilt, shame, fear at all when it comes to motivating your people. There's some ideas, some helpful tips when it comes to casting vision and motivating people forward. And I want to kind of challenge you to think this way. I want you to write out a script of how would you actually go about casting a 60-second vision moment from the stage on needing more children's workers. But I want you to do it from this way. I want you to think through the 4 C's. Is it concrete? Is it concise? Is it compelling? Is it clear? But I want you to use only top-level long-term motivators. Avoid using any lower-term, short-term motivators in the way that you actually go about making that announcement. It's a fun assignment. It's a great assignment to actually run your team through as well and get them begin to thinking about the importance of using strong long-term motivators in the way that they cast vision.